their journey discovering music from faraway lands and how it lifts their spirit. Welcome to Truth Be Told Transformation, Kimo West and Joss Jaffe.
Mahalo.
Mahalo. So Kimo, it's really Jim, but we're going by Kimo for this show. And they've brought in a variety of instruments and are going to be telling us about their new upcoming record, which is called Santhi. Do I say it right? So we'll talk more about that later, but why don't you get us going with some music, guys?
Sure.
Beautiful. Thank you. So tell me what that was called.
That's called Open Ocean, and that's actually from our first CD. Our first CD was called Al Makua, and I don't know if you've done much sailing or traveling by ship, but once you get out of the sight of land, there's something very, very magical that happens. You leave the civilization behind, and you get out there and it's so quiet, and you don't have to be out that far, but you get out there a little ways, and it is just a different world, and that's something I always enjoy, and being out on a ship or a sailboat or even a kayak, just getting far enough out to where it gets real quiet. The sound of the city, everything just is gone, and you
really
just have the sound of the waves and the wind, and that's it,
One of the things I got from that, the song, was it was at one and the same peaceful, and yet it had motion, and there was some energy going. It was almost like a bird flying in a way.
Mm-hmm.
You know how the bird, its body is still, but the wings are like, and so there was stillness and energy in it at the same time.
Yeah,
and that
and
explains
the ocean, of course, when you're out there, I mean, I spent a lot of time in Hawaii, so I'm used to the Hawaiian ocean, so it is pretty active when you're out there. You've got swells and you've got waves, and it's a rhythm, it's a natural rhythm, and it with little fluctuations, and you have the wind, but at the same time it's very peaceful too.
Yeah, exactly. So, Joss, I'm not, just so you know, I mean, we're on YouTube, but we're also on a lot of podcasts. So for the listeners that didn't get to actually see it, Joss is playing a very, very interesting instrument that I've never seen before. So let's describe what it is. I mean, I thought it was almost a sitar, but really tell us more what this is for that really unique extra sound with Kimo's guitar.
Yeah, oops. Thank you so much, Bonnie. I'm putting it right here so that you can see it in front of the microphone. This is called ngoni. It's an African harp from West Africa, and it's a really special instrument. It's actually how Kimo and I met each other, because he saw me playing this online, and he's a big fan of kora music. So ngoni is related to the kora. They're very similar. And in fact, this one is quite like a kora in that it has 15 strings, and it was originally tuned to F. But I quickly started changing the tuning and sort of foraging off on my own to create different tonalities that worked for our music.
Wow, amazing. And where did you find this? Did you find this in the States, or were you in West Africa?
I've unfortunately never been to West Africa yet, but this very special instrument comes to me through a friend named Biko Cassini, who's the drummer for Rising Appalachia, a very popular festival band now. And the reason that this particular instrument came to me is that if you look at it, there's a hole cut there, and it's metal. So normally these are made out of gourds, but anyone who's familiar with Indian music can see that this looks a lot like a baya, which is the left-hand side of the tabla drum. So this is a very special hybrid instrument.
Fascinating. Okay, well, for those of you listening on the podcast channels, I hope you'll pop over to the Club Paranormal YouTube channel to see this, because it's really, really unique. So I'll ask you both. You're originally from the States, and yet it seems like there's a real immersion with world music and instruments, as it turns out. I mean, you're exploring the actual instruments. And what made you actually be in search of this instrument and things like that?
Well, for me, I've played guitar all my life, ever since I was 12. But, I first went to Hawaii back in the 80s, and I went to a little town called Hana, Maui, a very small, remote town on the east side of the island. And I was staying with a local family, and I started going to local get-togethers, and I started hearing this sound of this kind of music called Hawaiian slack key guitar. They called it kihoalu, which means loosen the key. And basically, it's a traditional type of guitar playing that started back in the 1800s when guitars were first brought to Hawaii. But I fell in love with the sound because it's such a resonant, beautiful sound. The Hawaiians call it slack key because they slack the strings down and to tune them to the guitar to different chords, as opposed to standard tuning. Standard tuning kind of sounds like, and when they got guitars, they changed the tuning so it would be more like a chord. So anyway,
Wow.
I really fell in love with that sound, and I thought, to me, that music sounded like the place. It sounded so much like the place. It was like it was coming out of the earth. And I really fell in love with it. I just loved to listen to it. For many years, I didn't try to play slack key, but I listened to it a lot. And then eventually I started writing my own slack key tunes, and I would record them, so that I wouldn't forget them. And at some point, somebody said, well, you should make a CD. And I hadn't even considered that, because it wasn't like a commercial endeavor. I wasn't trying to, I was just doing it for my own enjoyment. But then, and somebody else said, well, I'll do the artwork for the cover, and all of a sudden I had a CD. And then I had a record release party in Honolulu, and I met a lot of people, and all of a sudden I was invited to play at the big slack key festival.
Oh my gosh, you suddenly became a slack key guitarist.
And all of a sudden I was in that world, and it was funny because I had to play solo shows, but I was so used to my performance experience was playing in bands, where the focus would be on the singer or something, and I'd just be in the background. All of a sudden, now I have an audience, and I'm there by myself. I kind of sweated it a little bit at the beginning, but it was a beautiful thing. It was just something that just happened without really without me intending it to happen. And then after that first album got such a good, response, I just thought, well, I guess I'll just keep do another one, and now I have like 12 albums.
And you have two together.
Yes,
we do.
And what was it like finding each other? And tell us, from the first record to this new record, was the first record a bit more Hawaiian in feel, and this record is Balinese? This record was inspired by Balinese?
The first one was not really Hawaiian sounding. I'm using Hawaiian slack key guitar and a lot of those kind of tunings, but it was generally more of a kind of a world music fusion record. And on this particular record, we decided that we would like to go something a little more Indonesian, Balinese sounding, But the influence of the Hawaiian slack key is definitely on both albums. You'll definitely hear some of those techniques and tunings and stuff.
Yeah. Joss, I know you from the yoga world. So, we've had a number of kirtan artists come on and talk about their journey. And I'd like to ask you, a lot of the music in kirtan is more Indian, would be right. If nothing else, it's certainly the Sanskrit. So what's it like knowing about that world, but then bringing it more deeper into, I don't know, the island vibes, the Polynesian vibes? What's the distinction between the two?
Yeah, I like your questions, Bonnie. You really like to do these deep dives into, the underlying themes of the music and the way that you felt the emotion of the music. It reminds me of your first question about the open ocean. And when we composed that song, it does feel very much like being out on the ocean. And the Hawaiians were, and all the Polynesians were master navigators. So on our first album, we did pay tribute to that history. We have some songs called Voyaging, and another song called No Rain, No Rainbows, which is a fabulous Hawaiian expression similar to the Buddhist expression No Mud, No Lotus. So
good comparison.
It's about thinking positive, aloha. And as far as kirtan, I started chanting and doing mantra practice when I was quite young. My parents were into yoga before it was cool. My mom was a yoga teacher way back in the 80s.
Amazing.
And they were hippies, into like Eastern spirituality and stuff. So they had a meditation teacher. So I would hear the mantras in the background. And interestingly enough, one very powerful mantra is called Om. And so we used our first album, we used the word Om in it. And we did this kind of play on words. So the word Omakua, which Jim introduced me to, is the Hawaiian spirit animal. So we kind of separated the words, and it starts with A-U-M, Om, which is the Sanskrit way of spelling it, and then Akua, which interestingly enough is also a Hawaiian word that means divinity or God. So the whole thing was just kind of like lots of layers.
Oh my gosh.
And it's we can geek out about, words and numerology. Maybe we do that already on the show.
Please bring it on. Bring it on.
But for us, it's like a multi-layered approach. It really just exemplifies what we do. I mean, Jim is a total master of many different genres on the guitar, and then I get to bring all my fun toys. I only have ngoni today, but I also play tabla, and so we just sort of had fun and saw where the journey led us.
Before you play our next song, by the way, and you were talking about only having one of your instruments, your toys here today, you've got a show coming up on Sunday.
Yeah.
For those listening in the Los Angeles area, I know I'll be joining. That's August 18th. And I don't even know where it is. Can you tell me where the venue is? Because I'm not going to be able to read
Yes,
this
it
right
is
now.
called The Lab, and it's right on Venice Boulevard in West LA. It'll be Sunday, so there'll be lots of free parking, and it'll be really easy for everyone to come. There's also a great band called Opium Moon, and maybe an artist you've heard of, Masood Ali Khan.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
who's
Both of them. Yeah.
a well-known kirtan artist.
Yeah, absolutely. Masood's wife was on our show.
Oh, cool.
Sienna came on one time. So, hi, Sienna, if you're listening. So, all right, well, or maybe you've got a new record. The event is an album release party.
It is.
So, your new record is coming out on Friday. And so, Santhi, I understand that means
Peace.
it means peace. So, similar to Shanti, which we know, right, which is, I think, Sanskrit too, right? So, what do you got for us?
Well,
Where do you want to go from here? You want to do Quiet Daydream?
yeah,
What
that'd
do
be
you-
nice
what
because
do
you have the
think?
ngoni,
Yeah, I have it out. So.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, let me just.
So speaking of peace, this is one of my favorite songs that we've ever made together, and it's called Kauai Daydream. And if anyone's ever been to the island of Kauai and sat on Honolulu Bay and looked up at those beautiful green mountains and the turquoise blue water, you feel that inherent sense of deep relaxation and peace. So that's where we're going through with this one.
We're dedicating this to Marco. I know he's a dedicated listener. So this one's for you, Marco. Honolulu Bay.
Okay.
What an elixir for the soul. I have goosebumps. You take me back to one of my favorite places in the world. Go to Kauai, everybody. Go to Hanalei, everybody. You need to do that. So where did that come in your writing process? Where did that song come in? How many tracks are on the record, by the way? Is this an EP or a full album? And just the writing process.
Well, usually it's actually interesting because our records come together very quickly. We sit around and we might talk of a concept or a feeling, and we start just trying to see how to bring that about. And sometimes Joss will have a part like this, and we'll record that, and sometimes I'll play along, and as maybe like a reference part, sort of, just so we can get the structure of the song. And then once we've got a really good recording on the Ngoni, for example, then I'll go back over and refine my part and overdub it, and then it's just the two of us. So we're adding parts as we go, and we listen to it and go, well, maybe let's add some percussion, or let's or whatever, So it's a very organic process, and it comes together very quickly too. It's just kind of fun, because we don't labor over things that much. We just try and get the feeling and get that on tape, as opposed to going nuts with production or anything like that. We just try and get the vibe on recorded, and that kind of speaks for itself.
I work around music. The day job is working around music marketing, but I actually don't quite know the answer to this question, and I'm sure it's case by case. What comes first, the inspiration, the idea for the song, the feeling that you just mentioned, Kimo, or do you have like a riff? Is there a little musical theme in your mind, and then the emotion, the feeling goes into that from there?
Well, it's both.
Question.
Yeah, it's both, really. I know a lot of my compositions. Sometimes they come from improvisation, where I just hit on something, and all of a sudden I can just see where it's going to go. All of a sudden something clicks, and it's like, okay, this is the beginning of something, and all I have to do is just follow it,
Right.
and it just and you can't, once you have that, it kind of writes itself,
Yeah, there were a number of actually songs on this new album, Santhi, where I don't know if you remember, Jim, but I actually was kind of getting a little emotional in the studio. Like, the songs were so beautiful, I almost kind of started tearing up a little bit.
You were moving yourself.
Well, the melodies were very slow. So you asked about the difference between the last album and this album, and our organic process is similar in both. And Jim's exactly right. We kind of come from this like relaxed place. We don't try and force the music. It's very much like a conversation, and he's such a maestro that, it's just so fun to like have him come up with an idea, and then I'll kind of work off that. It's like I don't go into the studio with a preconceived notion. In fact, the very first time we played, we thought we were just going to kind of have coffee or something, and like I was going to show him the instrument, but then we just like all this stuff started happening. We recorded like 3 songs on the first day.
Yeah, next thing you know, you had an album, and
but the difference between the two albums is the first one I feel has a more of a gentle quality, like standing on the beach in Kauai. The second album, I think, is a little more introspective. It's maybe a little darker. We played around with some of the tonalities. They're not Balinese precisely, but they were evoking that quality of the scales in Bali, which are very non-Western. They're called Slendro and Pelag in the gamelan, and they're very enchanting. And so that's what we were going for on this.
And
next
also
album.
Joss on this album, which he didn't use on the first album, he also used a hand pan on this album. So that's a very metallic instrument. It's a metal. It's kind of like a pan that's divided up into different sections. Each has its own pitch. And of course, Balinese gamelan music is almost entirely metallic.
Exactly.
It's all different kinds of metallic instruments they make out of the jungle by melting down scrap metal.
Anything they find,
they make their own instruments. But so Balinese gamelan music is very metallic. So I think that's another reason that this album sort of goes in that direction is just sonically, you know.
Yeah, it was also made our first foray into like being kind of overtly spiritual on this album. Like we have the songs called Water Blessing and Rainbow Body, which is a Buddhist concept of taking on the light body when you pass. So we really tried to like create an environment of bringing peace, real peace into the body and the mind. And there's a lot going on in the world right now where we desperately need more peace in the world. So I'm a peace activist. I'm always trying to support peace, and sometimes the best way to do that is just to create a peaceful vibe.
Yeah,
that
very
people
much.
feel comfortable around that vibration.
Thank you. Much needed. I want to say my experience was I was listening to the record last night in preparation for our conversation here, and I was pretty done. I had a long day. We spoke in the morning, and I had a really long day, and it was like 10 o'clock at night. And that music actually revived me, So because I was overloaded, but the music was, like I said in the beginning, and one way calming, and another way I was able to do just the last few things I wanted to get done, but not in a forced way. It just felt good. It was like this legitimate, it was this very real positive energy flow. So thanks for doing that. And I really like hearing your intentions around it. And, just in that, I don't want to say, the world has probably had dark ages all along the way. There was actually one called the Dark Age. I know that there's been some shadowy times always, and so not to fixate on it, but yet at the same time, I feel that. I feel that it's challenging and hard. So thank you both for being peace warriors through your art and all your endeavors, for sure. Do you want to play one more song for us? Is this going to be from the new record?
You want to do one where I play percussion?
Yeah. We could do. Let's see. We could do Butterfly.
Yeah, we could do a little Butterfly.
All
Yeah,
right, we'll do this.
Butterfly, symbolic of transformation. How apropos. Thank you. I'll take that anytime.
Yeah, this is this album this particular song has we had a sort of a similar one on Almakua, but it has a bit of a little bit of a West African flavor, which obviously doesn't have anything to do with Indonesia, but it's a sound that is, and of course the Ngoni is West African. So on the album, there's only just the two of us here today. So on the album, Joss is playing percussion and also Ngoni. So the Ngoni kind of ties in.
I need more arms, like
I was going to say, he haven't figured out. Yeah.
Anyway, so this has got a little bit of, like I said, a little bit of a West African type of a vibe.
Music, clearly a tool for transformation. I mean, thank you. That was so fun, and I can't even imagine. So, when you perform this on Sunday, will you have other musicians, or is it just going to be the two of you?
Decided yet. We're still deciding.
There's we have a couple other folks who might be joining us, so we're not sure which songs yet, but we're going to figure that out.
See how that's all going to work.
Guests.
All right. Well, I want to. I really could leave it right there, but I do like to give you, while you're here and talking to us, I always like to ask my guests, how do you feel we're doing out there? You are doing great work with your music and teaching as you do, Joss, to help us, again, find the peace, uplift, light. Just how do you feel planet Earth is doing this summer of 2024?
Wow, that's a really, really big question. To go back to the spiritual concepts that we were talking about earlier, I love a book by Thich Nhat Hanh that says peace is every step, and I think that's really all we can do is just keep reanimating each moment and doing our best in each moment, because there are a lot of challenges. Even today I'm doing some challenges with the CD release show, but it's all coming together. You just keep taking that next
every step. Yeah, I love that. Great message. I love that.
Yes, exactly. One step at a time.
And Kimo, I bet you have some aloha for us.
Well, aloha is an interesting word. It's a very universal concept in Hawaii. Of course, people use the word aloha to say goodbye, or hello or goodbye, But it's really a beautiful concept. I mean, I guess it's a way of life, more or less. I guess, to try and put it into words, I guess aloha is kind of like a sort of an unconditional love and compassion and caring for not just your fellow man, but for your ancestors, for the physical world, for the ocean, for the all the life, even the rocks. I mean, it's a deep kind of caring and compassion for everything around you. It's a really beautiful concept, and so when you say aloha, you're really saying I greet you with aloha.
Yeah.
Or when you say goodbye, I leave you with aloha. But it's a beautiful concept, and I think it's just a universal concept, and it's lovely how the Hawaiian culture has made it such an important part of their life. And everybody knows about aloha and tries to live their life in that way.
Yeah. And those of us, and you're reminding us that it's not just a salutation. So thanks, it perpetuates far and wide, and thank you, and truly, I wish you the very best on this new record. It's called Santhi for everybody, so it's going to be streaming. I don't know if you have a physical. Should we be checking out your Bandcamp, Joss?
Well, it'll be at the CD release, and we'll put it up on either Kimo or my Bandcamp, or both.
Fantastic.
And it's going to release everywhere this Friday, the 16th. That's in 2 days.
Congratulations. It's beautiful. And like I said, my first listening experience, got a sneak peek, and it was really, really uplifting, incredible. And getting to experience it here in studio, a little preview of what you've got coming up for Sunday, and hopefully other shows in the future. Best wishes to you.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you. Mahalo.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. This is Truth Be Told Transformation. I'm Bonnie Burkard, and we are here with Tony Sweet, who comes on Fridays live at 3 p.m. here on the Club Paranormal Network. So if you want to join the tribe and say hi to everyone, Robert Hensley is also doing Minuteman Report, and we've got Queer from the Other Side, our newest show. So be sure to listen and follow and like and love. And that's what we're trying to do, everyone. We're just trying to raise the vibe one episode at a time. So pay it forward, please. Just keep smiling. And don't forget, always shine on.